If you watched my previous videos, you already know that I've been involved with Yandere Simulator since early development and have also volunteered for the game. Now that I have finished playing both Osana's Week and achieved the S+ rank in 1980s mode, it's time to give an honest review and critique of the game in its current state. Now, as a small disclaimer, I am not a game developer, I have no clue how to code, so I'm not going to be talking about the code. There's a lot of people who know the stuff better than I do, so I will put a video right at the top right here if you want to know more about the code and how horrible it actually is. I will review the game from a player standpoint. I will not be reviewing it from a volunteer standpoint or someone who works for the game. I'm going to be completely honest on how much I like the game and how much I enjoyed experiencing everything the game has to offer. Despite there being many things wrong with the game, I'd like to start with the good points this game actually has, or things I really enjoy. I still do believe that the concept of the game is good overall, even if it has a lot of flaws and issues in its current execution. I think the idea of a yandere-inspired girl in a college or academy setting can be very interesting. The concept in itself is pretty unique. Sure, I suppose you could say it is just like a Hitman game, but I do like the idea of it being in a setting like this, like a school. I do not want it to be in a high school, of course not. We all know how that turned out, but an academy or college setting does seem very interesting to me. I also like the fact that the game is sort of open-ended and how you want to eliminate a rival is entirely up to you and has different outcomes. You don't get forced to follow a certain narrative and can freely decide whether you want to be a pacifist or not, though the game will try to lead you into different directions. Also, there's one thing I do like about the game that many people see as a negative aspect, but I do appreciate the small details in the game. Some of the smaller details make the game feel complete despite it not being near finished. Small details and additions like the music club minigame, it keeps the player engaged. Though it is a somewhat unneeded feature at the moment, I still like the addition and that you have the opportunity or the choice to play it. Yeah, and those are already all of the positive aspects I have for the game. I mean, there's also smaller things like that I like some of the students. I think some of their designs are really cool and that they have the potential to be really good characters, even from the small information that we have. But yeah, that is for maybe another video where I'll be talking about the students. Anyways, moving on to all of the negative aspects I've encountered while playing the game. This first one will probably be no surprise to any of you, since this is a very heavily criticized feature that pretty much everybody criticizes when they play the game: the panty shots. Sure, I get it, they're all over 18, even though they're not, but I still think you could handle this a lot better. Instead of it being panty shots, you could just make blackmailing an option, collecting info points by collecting information about the students. You can stalk them, you can find out new things about them, not having to taking upskirt pictures of the girls. Changing this feature to being a blackmailing thing where you can collect info points will also give you more options. You can stalk male students as well to find out more stuff about them, not just the female students. Which brings me to another negative point, which is info-chan and the whole hint thing overall. I do think info-chan can be pretty useful, but she does not exist in 1980s mode, and you do not get hints on how to do certain things, which I think could be executed better. Whenever you do something in 2020 mode, you will get hints from info-chan. She will always tell you what you have to do, you know what you have to get beforehand, and in 1980s mode it's kind of just guess and find out. The way that you could maybe fix this is by providing a student that is similar to info-chan but accessible in school. Someone you can go up to and ask. Someone who's just like info-chan, but you can only reach them while you are in school, and you have to talk to them and interact with them. Maybe you even have to befriend them so they will tell you more hints. Sure, the notepad exists, but if you play this game for the first time, you will not see it. You will not notice it being there, and you will never use it. Another thing that I really have issues with in this game are the controls. When you play on keyboard, at least I do, it's sometimes hard to figure out the controls, especially when you have quick time events or when you want to drop a weapon, for example. I could not figure out how to drop a weapon in the first minute. It never tells you how to do it. I don't know if it maybe tells you in the tutorial, but Knowing most players, they will skip the tutorial, so they will never find out and be as confused as me and only find out by accident. I also think that the controls make it really hard to run or sneak or interact with objects. It would be a lot easier if you only had to press the shift key once to run and press it again to stop running. My hands hurt so much after playing 1980s mode, it was crazy. Another aspect that I feel is a negative thing is the NPCs. Don't get me wrong, I know that this game is not finished and this will most likely change in the future, if the game ever gets finished, but there's repetitive tasks and the interactions all feel the same. All students are copy-pasted versions of themselves. They have different personalities according to their info, but they all react the same way depending on personality type. They all speak the same way. They all have the same behavior patterns and they all have the same routines. It feels a little monotone and robotic, but maybe this will change in the future. Another thing that I really don't like is the lack of consequences in the game. Not just me, but other players feel that there are insufficient consequences for committing violent acts. For example, even when a character is caught doing something illegal, the punishment system doesn't really feel punishing enough, and it reduces the sense of the challenge or urgency. I just wish there was more to it, especially when other characters, like when we frame them, that we get to see more, that we see the police investigating, that we hear students talk about it, that we hear teachers talk about students that were caught doing something. It just all feels so scripted. Or when you steal from the nurse. When you take the sedative from her cabinet, it just appears back the next day and you can do the exact same thing again. Why not make it harder? Why are there no stronger cabinets with better locks on them the more you steal? Which also leads me to police investigation after they find a dead body. When the police arrive, they will not tell you anything. It just tells you who died, and that's it. They will question Ayano, that's it. There's no cause of death, no suspects, no questioning like students, that you can see them questioning the students and what they have to say. It just feels very empty to me. Another thing that I feel I have to criticize is how unbalanced the difficulty of the game is. Some tasks or obstacles are far too easy, while others can be frustratingly difficult or require too much trial and error. This inconsistency can lead to a jarring gameplay experience. For example, when I was in 1980s mode and one of the rivals required me to level up 2 of my stats, that was such a hassle and I couldn't have known this beforehand. Other rivals that come after this require you to do literally nothing. Only thing you need to do is do their task and then eliminate them in the required way. While other rivals require you to do things that you can already do weeks in advance, but you don't know that you will need these things. This could be especially hard for new players of the game who have never tried the game before or haven't even seen videos about it. The game doesn't offer much in terms of tutorials or guidance for newcomers. New players may struggle to figure out how to accomplish basic tasks like eliminating rivals or managing their reputation, leading to confusion and frustration. Even though there are tutorials, it is a lot harder when you actually play the game. For a new player, the objectives are quite unclear. The game often lacks clear objectives or direction for new players. Without a clear sense of what to do next, it can feel aimless and overwhelming, especially when the main goal is quite complex and requires careful planning. For example, when you want to eliminate a rival through rejection, a new player has no way to know what they will need for each day. For example, when your rival wants to give Senpai a gift, how do you know where to get the required items that you can put into the gift? Which leads me to the confusing interface of the game. The user interface can be overwhelming and unintuitive for new players. With many options and actions available, it may be hard for beginners to understand where to go and what to focus on in the early stages of the game. Something that I noticed while playing the game was that at the end of 1980s mode, you have a lot of study points left over, which could be used for another 5 subjects or something. Maybe in the future it would be better to add some more subjects, or other stats that you could maybe level up with your study points. For example, you can only level your seduction through reading manga, but maybe you could also do it if you have study points left over, or adding new stats entirely. Something like your sanity, that you can level up your sanity so your sanity decreases slower when you commit a crime. In conclusion, I wouldn't say that Yandere Simulator is a bad game, but it certainly has its fair share of flaws. While it offers a unique and intriguing concept that mixes stealth, strategy, and dark themes, its unfinished state, clunky gameplay, and lack of polish can be major obstacles, especially for new players. The repetitive nature, incomplete features, and confusing user interface may deter some players, and the controversial content and lack of clear direction can leave others feeling frustrated. However, I do think it's important to recognize that the game is still in development, and many of these issues may be addressed in future updates. Ultimately, Yandere Simulator has potential, but it requires significant refinement and attention to fully reach its potential and provide a more enjoyable and immersive experience for all players. This will most likely never be reached through Yandere Dev himself. Maybe if he ever decides to give this game to another company, it will see a bright future. Well, and that's it on my review. I'm really interested on what you guys think about the game, so feel free to leave a comment and tell me how you experienced the game and what aspects you like and dislike. I will try to maybe compile a compilation of comments and try to discuss these as well. If you enjoyed the video, please let me know by giving a thumbs up and maybe subscribing. I will put my last 2 videos in the info card up above. I hope you have a nice day, and I hope we see each other again very soon. Bye bye!